Can you hear that? Let's see. Rather not use this one. See, this is my, yeah, but you can hear a hum. So that's not good. So let me try again. So now I think that fixed it. Yeah, but unfortunately the... Okay, is there still a hum in this, in the sound? Because I don't know if you can hear me right now. But is there a hum? Good. Okay, great. Everybody can hear me. Okay, now we can start. Today's rant. It's going to be basically, the concept is very simple. Just because you could do a thing doesn't mean you should. Um, how to begin? A company who will be nameless here had a salesperson called me a couple of days ago. Okay, I can hear you in the humming. Okay, I may have to figure out some way of soundproofing that thing there. So, but the trouble is that this microphone should not. Let me check in here. Check the mic. Let's see here on the. Okay, set the gain a little bit lower. Ooga booga. Ooga booga. Ooga booga. Ooga booga. Anyways, well, I don't know what I'm going to do about the humming, but it is something I'm going to have to explore about rearranging things in the room or moving the fiber thing, or I don't know. Maybe I should build a box around it that with sound deadening materials. But anyways, back to my rant. A couple of days ago, I had a salesperson contact me that wouldn't take no for an answer, claiming that they had some sort of bookkeeping service that was going to save me lots of money and time and so forth. So out of frustration, I basically just told the person, fine, set me up a Zoom meeting so you can give me the demo. So that demo came around 1 o'clock my time, Central Time on Friday, and which is essentially, like 5 hours before this very moment. And there was a salesperson there who, of course, was trying to pitch me on the idea of using their website to do bookkeeping. Now, to put in perspective, there are many websites that do this. So what they're offering really isn't unique, except that they said that, and again, I'm not kidding, they use AI to help analyze your books to find where you can find cost savings, which is like, okay, that's a huge red flag. Because the moment you use AI, what you're actually using is what's known as machine learning. Now, I'm going to take an aside here. As of today, February 3rd, 2023, AI doesn't exist. AI, artificial intelligence, means that you have a computer program that has the ability to learn on its own, which is what we do. We're intelligent beings, and we can learn on our own things about around our surroundings, behaviors of other people, words people tell us, but we can think on our own and therefore create things on our own. Artificial intelligence of that in a computer, unless it's in some top secret lab that no one's ever talked about it yet, doesn't exist. What is being pitched to us as AI is what is known as learning models. Now, a learning model is you take Wikipedia or the contents of Encyclopedia Britannica or the frickin' internet, and then you just simply have some algorithm that tries to assign meaning to this information. Because remember, a computer doesn't know what a word is. It doesn't know what a color is. It doesn't know anything. So what you have to do is just say the letters THE is the English word for the, and then you have to explain to it what the is. Or better yet, you just say the THE is a word. And then here's a dictionary. And in the dictionary has the definition of words. And by association of words, it can then come up with a heuristics tree to be able to assign meaning to it. But the meaning is basically only whatever it is you teach it through whatever information is given, but not for any moment is this computer actually learning any of this. It's just saying, oh, I have a gigantic database of all this information. How can I connect it all together and be able to come up with results based on a query you give me? Like, what, please read me a bedtime story that you give to GPT. All ChatGPT does is go through Wikipedia and the internet and all stuff, looking up the words bedtime story. And then from that says, oh, here are all things from bedtime stories. Here's all these stories that are considered bedtime stories. Here are words and phrases that are associated. Let's string them together and hopefully roll the dice and hope that this, what I'm putting out, actually passes for a bedtime story. And under most circumstances, it gets it. Other times it's like, okay, I don't know where this story came from, but man, what drugs were you taking when you came up with this? But that's because the computer itself has no knowledge or any idea of the meaning of whatever it is creating or putting out. And same goes for visuals. When you have like these art bots that go out saying, create me a picture of John Oliver marrying a cabbage. Again, it's the same thing. Here's a picture of a cabbage, thousands of pictures of cabbage. So take an amalgamation of them. That must be a cabbage, even though it has no concept of what a cabbage is. It's just, here's these random pictures of a green, what appears to be a sphere. That's a cabbage. Now let's go to what they're trying to sell me. They want to sell me a bookkeeping piece of software that's supposed to use AI to be able to streamline my expenses and stuff. Well, you know what that is. Is basically go through your list of stuff and find what you're spending money on and ask yourself, am I using this Adobe thing? Am I actually using this Netflix account? Okay, fine, cancel it. But these are all nickel and dimes when you consider the payroll or expenses of a company. So it really isn't saving that much money. And of course, the number one thing of any company, this is across the board, the number one expense is people. The human resources, i.e. employees. They are the number one expense. If the company can get rid of all their employees and actually do everything with just bots and machines and so forth, you'd be so profitable it's not funny. Because the cost of goods, the cost of shipping, that's only a fraction compared to how much you're paying your employees. Because remember, with employees, you don't have to just pay their salary. You're also paying for their time off. You're paying for their health care. You're paying for their 401ks. You're paying for, the matching for 401ks. Any other services, and of course human resources doesn't need to exist if you have no employees, because everybody working in human resources is an expense that you have to spend money on to maintain the rest of the employees. So as you can see, that number gets very large very quickly. So this guy gave me the pitch, showed me what this whole program does, and it really is nothing more than QuickBooks with lots of fancy graph makers. So saying, okay, here's my profit and losses, here's my expenditure graphs, let's go over your bank account and give a graph. Well, what's funny is, if I log into my bank, it actually has the ability to say, here's your bank balance over the last year or two. And since I have a separate bank account specifically for my company, and I only have one bank account for the company, well, that pretty much is the chart. How much money did I spend this much? How much money did I come into the company? There you go, your chart of accounts. Whoopee. Now, I have a person on staff at Old School. His job is to help me with the books, take care of all the filings, the forms, and stuff like that, because honestly, it's stuff that while I could learn it all and could do it all, I don't have time to do this because I have code I need to write. I have business dealings to do stuff like that. I have all this stuff that I need to do in order to, do the work that my clients are asking for. And I also have to have, but for legal reasons, a company has to file these papers every quarter with appropriate tax agencies all across the country. So, like, I have a payroll company who handles the payroll. And the reason they do it is because they take care of all the withholdings and making sure all the taxes are paid and that everybody's getting their information, of course, at the end of the year, mails out their W-2s. Then my teammate takes care of things like all my tax filings, the quarterlies, working with an actual tax agency who goes over my books at the end of the year, figures out, okay, this is how much you owe in taxes, which right now, because we're not making any money, is like a big fat zero. I do get to write out some of it, so here's where it gets fun. After he goes through a sales pitch, and nowhere in the sales pitch is how much it costs. Now, if you're ever in a sales pitch, if they avoid showing you the price, then you're going to get bit. So I just said, screw this. Let's get to brass tacks. Stop your demo. Tell me how much this is going to cost. So then he went back to his sales pitch, which is already so like, okay, tell me more stories here. Well, he then finally showed me the prices, which of course were pretty steep. And I explained to him that, look, my company only does maybe 20 financial transactions a month, and everything else is already automated, and if I need graphs or stuff, well, I have somebody on the team who will generate that for me. Which then he, without even pausing a beat, said, well, then think of the cost savings. How much are you paying this person every month in salary? If you use that money to pay for our services, you'll be saving a lot of money. So I said, stop you here. Are you asking me, and I did tell him this, are you asking me that I should terminate my employee and then replace him with your service? And he goes like, yeah, but think of the money you're saving. And it says, but he also does more than just the bookkeeping. He does business contracts. He does contacts. He maintains communication between our company and some of our clients and so forth. It says, well, he could keep doing that then. You just go ahead and cut back his hours to just what he does there, but all the hours he did there. It's like, but he's salary. He's not hourly. It says, well, we could figure out a way to, and it just roundabout. It was always about how could I somehow dismiss somebody so he can make a sale. Because when I made it very clear to him that I already have all the services that he's offering me, that, well, then what you need to do is get rid of the person who's giving you the services and just use us instead. And it's like oh boy. I was getting mad because while if his service offered something that my teammate can't provide, or if his service was providing something that was so phenomenal that I found like, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? Then okay, I might be able to be talked into it, but it wasn't worth the price he was. He was trying to charge me about $800 a month for this service, and it was just glorified graphs of QuickBooks, which QuickBooks makes graphs. And there is this thing called a spreadsheet, where you import your numbers and then you just spend a little bit of time. And of course, I've got a guy who could do that. So he wasn't offering me anything that I could possibly use, with the exception of him saying, well, we can get you, we have services that will help you work with your investors. And then I brought up to him saying, like, well, I wouldn't mind getting investment. So if any of you have some investment money, a couple of $100,000 to a couple of $1 million, let's talk. But the issue is that I'm going to be bluntly honest. I'm not planning on creating old school to become the next Interplay. I have no intention. That's not even where I'm going with this. I mean, Interplay went from 5 people, so like old school, 5 people, but we grew up to be a mega corporation with stock traded on the stock market and a gigantic office complex and over 500 people employed. And biggest detractor is that at a company of that size, you have to come into the office. And I've kind of gotten used to this working from home thing, and I am not going down a path that's going to put me where I'm not working from home. I'm just not. I mean, so therefore, either my studio becomes, let's say, a wholly owned subsidiary of some bigger company, and all they do is they throw me money, and I'll go ahead and develop games for them, but we could still do it from home. But I'm not really interested in becoming a billionaire by essentially exploiting my workers, because that's just not the way I am. Because I don't even think of them as my workers. I think of them as my teammates. I think of them as my, co-conspirators, shall we say, because the thing is that I depend on their work. Because in order to produce the stuff that I'm contracted to provide, I can't do it by myself. I don't have enough hours in a day of 8 hours to do the code, then I have to take a couple of hours to do bookkeeping, and then I have to do a couple of hours of just talking to clients and an email chain. It'll be something where I'd be working easily, 10 days a week, which, as you know, there's only 7 in a week, and I don't have a TARDIS. Well, maybe the closet over there is a TARDIS, but who knows? I'm not telling. But back to what I was saying is that's why I need people on board, in which the work they generate, I sell to clients, who in turn gives me money, and of course some of that money goes to the people because they produce the money by producing work. And that's the basic gist of employees and people who work with you, is that without them, you're nothing. So, I've had people who I've worked with in the past who got really egotistical and then started believing that the company was all their creation, and it was because of their vision they had the big company. No, it's because all the people who worked at the company creating all those products that was being sold by the marketing department, that the company was able to make all this money, so then the person can buy, another house someplace or whatever it is. But if it wasn't for those people's hard work, I don't see that CEO actually writing code. I'm a CEO who actually writes code. I mean, just go check out GitHub, and you could see, yeah, I know what I'm doing. But at the same time, much like Henry Ford said in a court case, is that I don't know everything, and one of the things I don't know is taxes, in the sense that I don't really like filing all the taxes and bookkeepings, which is why I have somebody on board who knows this stuff. So when I get a letter in the mail saying, hey, this is from the Texas Franchise Tax Board or from Washington State or whatever it is, I just simply take the letter, scan it, email it to him, and say, deal with it. And that's his job, is to deal with it. And that's the thing he didn't seem to understand, the salesperson, is that this automated AI-driven whatever it is incapable of me taking a form, scanning it in, sending it to this AI bot and saying, deal with it. It's just going to go, blah, 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 blah. Insert human here who actually knows this stuff. So, yeah. But the audacity for him to suggest that I should just automate things and then remove somebody from employment really rubbed me the wrong way, especially the way he was presenting it. It's just saying like, "Hey, this is your company. You could save money by using our services instead of having in this case, a part-time teammate." Because based on him paying him, he's definitely working part-time. But he's but however, for his point of view, is like, how is he going to pay his rent? How is he going to put food on the table, or so forth? I mean, his all the stuff about his life, it's not my prerogative, but I'm certain that the income he's generating for his work he's doing for me is definitely helping his bottom line. And for me to just say, hey, I'm going to have to let you go because I'm replacing you with this bot. Have a nice day. Which goes to my first whole thing, which is just because you could doesn't mean you should. And that is where I really want to take this rant, is the emphasis of people trying to automate everyone's jobs. Now, that is, in and of itself, a noble idea because some jobs are redundant and so forth, but that's because you take out the human factor. Let's use a topic that I've been reading about recently, and that is AI-driven cars. Now, granted, again, it's not AI. It's just machine learning and so forth. It's just a decision tree. But a self-driving car is kind of cool. I myself wouldn't mind owning a self-driving car because I would get in the car and say, "Hey, car, take me down over to Kroger," and or better yet, "Hey, my car, can you do me a favor and drive me to my kid's house in California? Yeah, it is a 2-day drive if you go solid driving, but I'll take a nap in the back, and every time that you're running low on fuel, go stop at a gas station. I'll get out, fill up the tank, and I'll take another 6-hour nap." Cool. But the whole gist of companies like Cruise and Waze and whatever their names are, I don't remember, Waymo, I think it was, but I'm probably wrong. I don't know. Their whole idea is that they want to get rid of all the drivers from Lyft, from Uber, the truck drivers. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, they get a self-driving car. They figure it out. They crack that nut. They've got a piece of software and the sensor array that's perfect, and it will drive your car around, and now you can have all these Ubers and Lyfts of cars coming in, a la the Cruise Mobile, and then you have all the trucks in the United States, are being driven around by AI bots. That's going to put about anywhere from 1 million to 10 million people out of work, because, there's easily maybe, 100,000 to 1 million truck drivers in the U.S. alone. And then think about the probably million or more people who are part-time driving on Lyft, saying, "Hey, I need to make a little extra money." Because I have a good friend of mine who lives back east, and that's her primary source of income, is doing Lyft driving. Well, guess what? You need to find another job. All right? What job? All the restaurants are now, like McDonald's has a restaurant that they're testing, which there's no employees in it. It's all automated. So you drive up to the drive-through, and there's either an AI listening to your voice and then figuring out your order, or in the hard times, they actually channel it to a human being who just types in the order and then sends it in, and then the machines take care of it. And then they charge a credit card. You go in there, and the machine literally cooks all the food and hands you a bag, and you're done. Okay, reduces the chance they'll screw up your order, but now there's no more jobs for people to work in fast food. And that's another couple of million people. Well, where are they going to work? We've already got a big crisis in the United States about people who are, having a hard time finding jobs. Now, granted, we have really low unemployment right now, but it's only because all the companies are hiring people part-time, so you need 2 or 3 jobs in order for you just to make enough money to survive. That's another topic. But what I'm getting at is that if the dreams of these CEOs to automate everything, from automating Amazon warehouses to automating the trains, automating the cars and trucks, now you're going to have easily 10 to 20 million people who have lost their jobs, and there's no place for them to go to because factories these days are only manned by 20 people because almost everything is being manufactured by robots. And that's going to be a huge problem. I mean, that's where people are going to have to start really thinking about basic income, which is the government just pays you $10,000 a year for existing, and that should be just enough for you to live on. Because, I mean, an example is that in the movie and the TV series and the book, The Expanse, they actually talk about in the future, a large portion of the population is living on what's called basic, which is what they're referring to as a minimum income that the government is giving everybody, because since everything's automated, there literally is nothing for a majority of people to do, even if they're educated. So that kinds of is going to be kind of more inevitable, because if all of a sudden R2-D2 and C-3PO are doing your job, then what are you going to do? And don't say self-employed, because it's like, for me, I'm self-employed because I go ahead and make software, I just create games and stuff like that, but I still need, if I had basic income, then yeah, I could, announce my retirement and then say, I'm just going to write Apple II games for the rest of my life, because I don't have to worry about what I'm doing to be able to eat or where to live. But unfortunately, a lot of people, those choices are being taken from, and as technology is coming in, especially this bookkeeping in which he's telling me, hey, I should throw somebody out on the street and replace him with R2-D2 because it will save me money. I wish more CEOs were like, now granted, Henry Ford had a dark side too, but Henry Ford did have one idea that was actually good, and that is pay your employees enough money that they can afford the products you're shipping. The rest of Henry Ford, yeah, throw him in the garbage. He's a racist, xenophobic, fill in the blank on the rest of the stuff. But on that one is where, yeah, share the wealth, don't hoard it and so forth. I mean, numerous times in my life, I came across some money and stuff, and if I was really a bitch, I could have just kept all the money and screwed everyone else. Instead, no, I shared the wealth. I did it because I recognized that I wouldn't have this money if it wasn't for the people around me. And holding out on that is like, where's your humanity? What happened to it? I mean, I still have my soul. I still have my humanity. And I have no intention whatsoever of putting it up on the auction block. And this guy trying to sell me, in his desperation to sell me his software services, it's not actually, it's a monthly fee, so it's not like I could just buy a software, install it, and be off to the races. It's a, hey, sign up for this thing and send us money in perpetuity, and of course, now I'm bound to their software, so in case they ever raise their prices or something like that, I'm kind of boned because I kind of let go of the person who'd be able to handle this stuff, in case, I don't have to worry about him. I do cost of living raises and kind of stuff like that, but there you go. I'm going to go ahead and, now that I'm calming down because I finally got this off my chest, I'm going to take some questions from the studio audience. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll back up a bit. It goes like, I want to offer a promotion of, forget that crap. Here it is. The whole reason I'm here was because of an unsolicited... Anyways, Papa Robot 88 writes, hello, welcome back to the Steamverse. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while. I'll get to that as soon as I've done some of my QA here. The sales pitch sounds unbearable, not gonna lie. It was unbearable. In fact, Janelle, my wife, brought it up to me after the sales pitch was done. She told me, why didn't you hang up on him earlier? And I was like, I'm very patient. I still wanted to hear what he had to say because who knows? He might have actually had something to say that mattered, shall we say. But in this case, having him pretty much ask me to let go of somebody just so I can go ahead and change over the software to, a bot, which, my teammate does more than do bookkeeping. He is not a bookkeeper. If he had a title, it would be business development. Yeah, he does bookkeeping. He does the stuff and interfaces between finance people, but he does more stuff than that. And then have just say callously saying, why don't you just let him go and then give us the money? Okay, I've just witnessed somebody whose soul just left his body. Because that's the way that goes. Another one goes, Summer 4B76, right? Home office is greater than non-home office. Agreed. On the hunt for Rebecca's TARDIS. There may or may not be a TARDIS. I can't confirm or deny. Papa Robot asks, can be the next EA. It's, well, to be honest, is if I really wanted that, if I wanted to be the next EA, I feel confident I could probably do it. But the thing, though, is that I would be afraid I'm selling my soul. And I don't want that. I don't want to sell my soul. Zinjin Mengi, I'm sorry, I mangled your name. Specialization is for insects. Yeah, but some people can be really good. There are people who are savants in one field. They may be morons and everything else, but in one field, they are a freaking genius. And I've met some of these people in which you're like, hey, this person gives Forrest Gump a run for their money, but you know what? You put a math formula in from there, and they'll just write the answer. And you're like, how did you do that? You put down another math formula. Here's the answer. Master. Master. Gashi writes, automation of what was once manual labor is a good thing, but our society is set up so that this means removing someone's means of living. That's the point of this whole talk. Bunya Bad writes, who will make the burgers? We must have burgers. I kind of prefer them, flame broiled or stuff like that. Come on, give me that delicious Red Robin bonsai burger. I wonder if I got one. No, it needs to age some more. Give it some more time. Let's see. Slotman Icon Games. Having trucks driven by AI would actually be a good thing. Have you ever had the idea how many hours a truck driver works nonstop? They usually take drugs to stay awake. That's how bad things are. You can maybe have AI and human driver as a backup to hasten the deployment. The thing is, we'll need universal income sooner or later because AI will replace a lot of jobs. Yep. Okay, two things right there we're going to unpack. One, driving a vehicle of any kind, be it a ship, plane, truck, can be a monotonous, boring job. And there have been accidents caused because people slept at the controls, and like one incident in Canada where a freight train crashed into a passenger train because the people driving the freight train fell asleep. But that's not a reflection of the people behind the wheel. It's a reflection of the fact that the company, in an effort to, again, save money, instead of hiring enough engineers to work only 8 hours and then get the people to go home for 16 to get some sleep, rest, and a life, is the real problem. So like when you have these interstate truckers who do, because by law, they're only supposed to drive, I think, 9 hours a day, and you have logbooks to record this on the plane. The FAA actually gives you huge fines if they find out in your logbook that you flew more hours consecutively than certain time limits. I think it was 9 hours as well, but correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong. But it's all designed because of the fact that we time and time again, if you work your employees or your people to death, this shit happens. And therefore, people who are overworked, driving nonstop, either there's two solutions to it. One, you pay them more, and B, you only work them 8 hours a day. Or for a trucker, you should be in a perfect world, the trucker should be get in a truck, drive 4 hours out, get out of the truck, a new driver gets in, takes the truck, and then this guy takes the truck for 4 hours and brings it back, and then goes home and to the family and kids, so they're home every night. That's a perfect world. In reality, it's more like you get in the truck, drive 8 hours, go to sleep, wake up, drive another 8 hours, and so forth. But because, again, back to the gig economy, since many independent truckers are paid by the mile, they just say, I want to make more money, I'm going to drive more. But if you pay them a living wage, then they're just going to say, I'm just going to drive my 8 hours because I got enough money to send home to the wife and kids, or the husband and kids, depending on whether the gender or sexual identity of the driver. Then it really will cut down the number of accidents and make the job actually something people would want to do, instead of do the job out of complete utter desperation. But at the same time, is like, yeah, an AI driven truck would probably have a better safety record, but at the same time, AIs can, self-driving vehicles might be hacked, or they might be fooled, because we've seen accidents that have occurred both with a real self-driving car and the Tesla somewhat self-driving cars, in which something the programmers never foresaw happened and someone died. But in time, they'll work it out. They'll fix the bugs. They'll get it right. But for now, it's one where that I definitely wouldn't be just in a passenger in a completely self-driving car, especially one that can hit 60 miles an hour. I'm going to continue with some of your questions. There's even a good book on it, The Lessons for the 21st Century by Harari. Okay? Telemarketing is another job that will probably be replaced as well. Yes, it has. Slav and Icon Games writes about that. There have been several times in which I've gotten a cold call from a solicitor in which I'm actually talking to a chatbot. I would hear this female voice saying, hello there, how are you busy? How are you? And of course, my response to them is, hello, computer. And it says, good, good. Let me tell you about the blah, blah, blah. It says, can you tell me what color is the sky? And then they go like, oh, maybe you should also look at this. If the fact that they're not actually reacting to what I'm saying, because a normal person would say, hello, computer. It's like, what? Are you quoting Star Trek? Or if I say, what the sky is blue, so it's like, well, what color is the sky? They'll say, why are you asking me that question? The fact that a human being would ask that instead of an AI. So it really is nothing more than an advanced version of Siri, whose job it is to somehow screen out most of the calls, so when they finally found somebody who's likely to buy, they then connect me with either a human person, or in some cases, they actually try to complete the sale using an automated system. Yeah, it's happening. Papa Robot 8 writes, what would be the best platform for indie developers? Is the question more like what platform to develop on to be able to either maximize your profits, or to the easiest one to develop for? The one that would maximize your profits tends to be the PlayStation, because the PlayStation tends to do the biggest numbers. Second is Xbox, and third is Switch. Now, granted, Switch has the potential of making far more numbers, but you have to have advertising and brand recognition. But and again, it says, but for ease of development, PC. The tools on the PC are so robust and so well done that it's really easy for you to step and trace and get your software up and running on a PC. And of course, there's GitHub has like 1,000 source code drops for video games that you could use any one of them as a basis, as a starting point. Next one. I'm curious, what was the budget for Bard's Tale 3 like back in the day? You know what the budget was? $80,000. That was it. It was 4 people, and the only 2 people were actually full-time. That was myself and Todd Kamasta. And I was only making at that time maybe $32,000 a year, if that. It's probably lower. And I know Todd was being paid less. And then Mike Stackpole was a writer, but he was paid a couple of $1,000s to do his work, which is the text and the storyline and stuff. And Kurt Hayden, who did the music, he was only paid, I think, $1,000 for his work. And so, yeah, the whole budget was easily $80,000 or less to do Bard's Tale 3. And Dragon Wars was actually less money. I actually did that one for, I think it was $60,000. Because I did it faster and so forth. But still, again, I had Todd Camasta, and I had myself, and in this case, we went with Mark O'Connor, I believe his name was, to do the story, help me with the storyline, stuff like that. But then there was, and then the music was done by Charles Deenan. So there you go. And then us was Dragon Wars Cosmic Doubt. I answered your question. Gashi writes, this is true for truckers too. I work briefly on electronic driving logging hardware. The problem is rampant fraud in the trucking industry. Even when there are restrictions, the drivers want to get around it because they're overpaid. So to cooperate with organizations employing will lie about their hours in the log. No, it should be underpaid. Yeah, he corrected, underpaid. Yeah. Because if the truckers are underpaid, they have to find ways to log more hours, to log more money, to be able to afford, life. Because, let's face it, it's expensive. Oops. Let's see. Alberto Casanova, Mexico writes, how's the energy outage in your area, Becky? Greetings from Mexico. The energy outage actually has not been affecting me because I have this giant rack of batteries downstairs. But today, Encore, I think we're still out. Let me check. Yeah, we're still not connected to the grid. So technically, right now, I shouldn't even be online. But however, because we have the batteries and the solar panels, we've had. Now, I think at this point we should be running mostly on batteries because the sun's going down. But earlier today, when the power went out, the solar panels were generating like twice as much energy than we needed. So we were running everything in the house, and we were still putting energy in the batteries. But again, it's back to, I didn't buy the solar panels to save money on electricity. I did the solar panels to basically zombies. Let's see here. Papa Robot writes, hello, generic carbon unit. Yes. Hello, computers, genius. Sometimes, Gashi writes, sometimes automated calls or people in poor countries can't speak English well who are given a soundboard. That's an aside right there. Because I'm on LinkedIn and so forth, I get calls all the time from recruiters. I get them all the time. But the thing that annoys me the most are some of these recruiters who are obviously stationed in India, and they have such a thick Indian accent, I can't understand what they're saying. So I'm in the conversation and I was saying, what did you say? Can you please repeat that? And I would be saying, sir, get a better microphone. Get a better Bluetooth, whatever your microphone is. It's not helping your accent. But it's back to, the people in India are likely being paid far less than recruiters here in the United States. But it always goes back to, hey, how can a company just save lots and lots of money so the CEOs of that particular company can get a bigger bonus? And of course, if I ever ask them questions and make them go off script, then heaven help them. It goes, now they're trying to move to machine learning models to make their accents sound American instead of using a soundboard. Well, I'm not going to say anything negative about somebody who's at least trying to sound, make an accent of where they're trying to sell to, because I consider that self-improvement. And anybody who's doing that, bravo. Gashi writes, the whole thing reeks of cognitive dissonance of some sort. Getting people you can pay nothing, but then spending tons on machine learning to make it seem like you aren't. Oh, it's not the people themselves doing it, it's the companies hiring them. Yeah. That's not a subject I'm familiar with, so I'm going to reserve commenting on that. But back to, there was something I wanted to talk about as I was going through the messages here. Let's see, what was it going through here? Machine learning, truck driving, so forth, 21st century. AI bots. Bard's Tale 3. Yep, Bard's Tale 3. Let's see, rampant trucking industries. Overpaid, underpaid. Anyways. Slotman writes, hey, once I was on a retro meeting here in Brazil, and some guy came all the way from Japan to meet everybody. I couldn't understand a single word of his English. Lucky for us, there was someone who spoke Japanese to translate for everyone else. Hey, that's possible. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised in the least that there's someone out there in my audience right now who's having a hard time understanding my silly American accent. In my case, since I was born and raised in Los Angeles, it's kind of a hybrid California Spanish, or what I call Spanglish accent. if there even is one. Hey, but the more you know. But anyways, that's basically been my rant for this thing. I just wanted to get it off my chest about the fact that someone in there, either they needed to make their numbers, or for all I know, if they didn't make their numbers, they themselves are going to be let go. But the idea that they were willing to have me throw somebody under the bus just so they can book a sale, it really bothered me. And whereas I understand the people who work with me are people who depend on my livelihood, or on their livelihood. But at the same time, there are limits. I mean, if somebody's on payroll and I ask them to do something and then they don't do it, and then I ask them what's going on and I try to figure out work with them, but the bottom line is that either they're just not capable of doing it, then we may have to sever the relationship. Or the other one is basically I can't afford them anymore. Either whatever the client is paying me to do the work, they'd say, I don't need your work anymore. And at that point, well, then if there's no work to be done, then there really isn't any point for this person to be on staff, because there's no income to pay this person. Then, they're in as a layoff. But unfortunately, what also bothered me with some of these major companies going on is this preemptive layoffs where they're, tampering down and stuff and saying we hired too many people. So, well, didn't you figure that out like years ago or something? I mean, what took you so long to figure that out? So, yeah, it rings hollow to me. Humanity, right? So I guess this is a bad time for me to learning coding and switch careers with all this AI stuff. Feels bad, man. That's from Macram He M. Again, I'm probably mangling that screen name. Well, the thing is, coding, at least thankfully, is one of the jobs that is required to maintain these armies of bots. Because until they come up with a chat bot that can actually write code, that's going to be a long, long time. Because, to be honest, writing code, drawing art, and writing stories takes real creativity. And this is something AI, as what's being called today, cannot do. Because they do not understand what it is they're regurgitating. All they know is that there's this vast volume of knowledge. They connect all these concepts together, but at no moment do they actually understand any of these concepts. They're just things strung together. And one person writes, true, but at your level you're safe. Aren't entry-level programmers kind of screwed? Actually, no, not really, because unfortunately, entry-level programmers are still needed for scripting. I mean, when somebody comes up with a website and does all the things on there, an AI can only create what's already existing, but if somebody wants something brand new, then AI coding will flip out. And the thing that makes us unique is the fact that we think outside the box. We have creativity. And now, of course, granted, if a real AI was to show up, then we have to be very cautious about the fact that we need to teach it that living things are, have as much right to live as it does. And otherwise, the Terminator will become a documentary. Coding is a creative activity. I guess I shouldn't feel bad about myself for not being creative. Ha ha. Nope, it is being creative, because essentially is that we're trying to solve problems using creative solutions that hopefully we can reuse again and again and again, or better yet, whatever challenges there are, there's always unique issues to fix. And like even now, I'm tasked with doing some programming tasks that are like, oh, okay, that's what you're paying me to do? Okay, you're the boss. And of course, I'm in the video game field. These days, engines have been done to death. So it's like, if I was to make a video game today, So I already have my own engine to do it, but if I wanted to do a game, let's say a first-person shooter, I probably wouldn't even use my own engine. I would just use Unreal or Unity, but most likely Unreal. And with that, just focus on making the game, which is really more of not programming, but storytelling. And the programming, which of course low-level programmers are going to do it, because you don't need me to write a script tree for saying, if the person has gotten the widget, then, say this, else say that. Somebody still has to write that. That doesn't write itself. And of course, all that art, remember, is that whenever you see any 3D movie or any video game, every single leaf, every single object in the game, somebody had to create that. I mean, even like when they have tools that just spread leaves around there, well, somebody had to first draw the leaf and the texture for the leaf, or mathematically figure it out in order to do a procedural leaf. But still, somebody had to create that. That's where you come in. Let's see. Oh, I've been doing a lot of reverse engineering work resulted in that. Let's see here. Just wait until you start dreaming solutions to your coding problems. Just wait till you start dreaming solutions to your coding problems. You're pretty much describing my life, because I do kind of sometimes wake up in the middle of the night going, "Eureka! I figured out how to fix it!" And I come running here, apply the fix, it worked, then go right back to bed. Going around lazy Japanese text output coding is both fun and dreadful. Oh yeah, yeah. Nihongo hanishimasu ka? Anyways. Yes, I do. Anyways, I think I'm going to be wrapping this up, but I did want to, make certain that my streams setup is working, because as I once did a podcast a couple months back, I had somebody hack my passwords. So in an effort to make certain that I didn't have any lingering bad stuff on my computer, I literally took the SSD out, put a brand new SSD in, install a fresh copy of Windows, and for some strange reason, it looks like I forgot to put in Streamlabs software. So I installed it, got it all set up, and here we are. But, it's one of those things where nuking the site from orbit was the only way to be sure. So, any last questions and stuff like here from the Twitch TV land? And yes, Twitch TV is where I usually follow, is my primary source of streaming. So even if you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook, Twitch TV is where I'm based. So therefore, if you click the link whenever you saw that I was going to stream, Twitch TV is where I'm focused. But however, again, follow me on Twitter at BurgerBecky or Old School. And I'll see you in the funny papers.